And first up tonight, the whale attack. People go to the aquarium to be amazed, entertained. But today, visitors at SeaWorld Orlando were horrified by what they saw. They watched a woman die. In a moment, we'll speak with someone who was in the crowd when it happened. You'll also hear from the animal's trainer, as well as Jack Hanna, on what should happen next. But first, the deadly incident. Randy Kay reports it wasn't the first time, it was the third.
She never had a chance. A 40-year-old female trainer in the jaws of a 22-foot-long killer whale, a massive orca weighing 12,300 pounds.
She apparently slipped or fell into the tank and was fatally injured by one of the whales.
It happened at about 2 o'clock this afternoon at SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. But exactly what happened is still unclear. SeaWorld says senior trainer Dawn Brancho, who was interviewed on CNN 2 years ago, slipped into the tank. But an eyewitness tells CNN the killer whale, a bull orca named Tilikum, actually grabbed the trainer and pulled her into the tank.
There was a trainer standing there by the window just talking about the whale, and people were asking questions, how much does he weigh, things like that. And then the whale went on his, floated upside down, and the trainer downstairs said, oh, yeah, he's, they're giving him a belly rub. He really likes that. And I could tell it was Tilikum because you could tell by the huge fins.
The whale is believed to be the largest orca in captivity. His fins alone measure more than 6 feet. The eyewitness says when the trainer, who was not in the water, gave the go-ahead, the whale took off.
Just took off really fast, and then he came back around to the glass, jumped up, and grabbed the trainer by the waist and started shaking her violently, and her shoe, last thing we saw was her shoe floating, and then sirens immediately started.
The crowd that had gathered for the show was cleared out. The park manager at SeaWorld says the trainer drowned. An expert with the Orca Network who studies whales told me Tilikum has always been known to be aggressive and doesn't swim with other trainers. He told me Tilikum's role in the SeaWorld show is simply to splash and soak the audience using his massive tail. Orca Network's Howard Garrett says the whale's lack of companionship may have triggered this attack.
When you put a highly social mammal like an orca into captivity for long periods, they have nothing. They have no stimulation. They have no companionship. And that can tend to create stress.
In fact, parkgoers say the whales at earlier shows today appeared stressed and stopped obeying commands.
We have never in the history of our parks experienced an incident like this.
But this is not the first time this killer whale has been involved in the death of a trainer. Back in 1991, nearly 20 years ago, Tilikum and 2 other whales killed their trainer at a park in British Columbia in front of a crowd. She had fallen into the tank, and the whales dragged her underwater. 8 years later, in 1999, the naked body of a man was found floating in Tilikum's tank. He had snuck into SeaWorld. Authorities said he was the victim of horseplay. Could it be that Tilikum, the killer whale, was looking to horse around this time, too?
Unlike your dog at home who'll just scratch your leg, if a killer whale wants to play with you, he's only going to show it to you one way, and in this case, it's to pull you in the water.
No matter what Tilikum has done, the Orca Network believes SeaWorld will keep him. As the primary breeding male for all SeaWorld parks, he's worth millions. At a time when whales are dying faster than they are being born, the Orca Network says Tilikum is SeaWorld's future. Randy Kay, CNN, New York.
And joining us now are Paula Gillespie. She was there at the park with her family and watching the show with her young daughter when this happened. And on the phone, Jeffrey Ventry. He worked with Tilikum. He's now out of the profession. Paula, let's start with you. You were there. You were an eyewitness to this. It sounds terrifying. Would you describe exactly what happened?
Well, we had left the Dine with Shamu show, and we went down to look at his full body underneath the observation tank, and everything seemed calm and okay, and the trainer was laying down on him and kissing his nose and rubbing him, and you could see her hand in the water and rubbing him, and the next thing, I mean, it all happened so fast, and within like 5 minutes that she was down in the tank, and we saw all the thrashing and the bubbles and him pushing her with his nose, and it was just so traumatic, and all the people around, and of course my daughter, and she saw it, and I tried to shelter her eyes from it, but it was too late. And that's when all the sirens went off, and they told us to please, you know, exit the building and head up to the main streets of the SeaWorld attraction, and they just started shutting down everything.
And you saw, they're describing this as a scene where nothing but the trainer's shoe was left?
No, I didn't see any of that. I mean, we were underneath the tank because we left from the dining area, which was right above, and during the show everything seemed perfectly fine. He was playing with her and she was playing with him, and she would constantly, you know, crawl around on the ledge and pet him. And
no sign this was coming. Jeffrey, let me ask you.
No.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey, were you surprised to hear something like this had happened?
Sure. You don't expect something like this to happen. Tillicum's a great animal, and Don is a great trainer. I'm sad it did happen. I'm shocked.
And yet Tillicum has a history. So were you aware of this history?
Yes, I was aware of the history.
And do you think it's surprising then that Tillicum would attack again? There are 2 other instances where people have died. Do you think this animal should still have access to humans?
Only the most experienced trainers get to work with Tillicum. I'm not sure of the exact incident in Vancouver. And the guy in 1999 apparently jumped over the fence at night and got into the pool with Tillicum. It's hard to say whether that was an act of play or aggression. And I wasn't there today, so I can't really tell you what happened today. All I can say is that Tillicum's a good animal, and Don was a great trainer.
And I want to point out we're watching video of you with killer whales when you were still working with them. Paula, turning back to you, earlier when we spoke to you, you wanted to clarify that this incident took place after the show. And you really didn't see anything strange during the show or immediately afterwards, because someone in Randy Kay's piece just now said that there was some weird signals before. You didn't see anything that seemed unusual.
No, and she walked around the entire area and would have him come up on the rocks that are around the edge where we're sitting, and at one point they were right in front of us. If I had leaned over, I could have touched her, and she would have him come up out of the water on his fins and make noises and catch fish and ice, and he seemed perfectly fine.
That's Dawn, the trainer we're looking at. I just want to point that out. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and she was very interactive with him, and he was with her, and she'd reinforce their infection and give him kisses on the nose. And I mean, when the show ended, it seemed perfectly fine.
All right, Jeffrey, do you have a theory why SeaWorld still has this animal, Tillicum, in the tank, despite all these past instances?
Sure. He's sired, I believe, 13 offspring, 10 of which I think are still alive, and he's a great breeder, and he's a beautiful animal.
So in other words, he is a male breeder. They actually essentially use him to breed new animals, and they need him on their team. Is that what you're saying?
Well, he provides semen to impregnate females. He's a beautiful animal. He's huge. He is impressive, and people just see him and go, wow. And, you know, he's a money stream, as well as a great animal.
Jeffrey Ventry, Paula Gillespie. Paula, sorry for what you witnessed today, and thanks to both of you for joining us this evening. And up next,